and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we will be going over how to half double crochet. First we'll go over the materials you need, then how to make a slip knot and chain, then how to half double crochet. And these are the timestamps for each if you wish to skip ahead. So you're going to need some yarn, a hook, and some stitch markers. Now technically you don't need stitch markers, but I highly recommend them. Otherwise, that's all you need. So now we're at the point where we can start crocheting, so go ahead and get your yarn and your hook ready and let's get started. We are going to start by learning how to make a slip knot, and this is pretty much just your basic knot that you're going to start with for almost every single project. So you'll start by picking up your yarn and you're going to wrap it around your non-dominant hand. So for me, this is my left hand, so I'm going to take the loose end and have it toward my palm, hold it in place, and then take the yarn around your first two fingers and wrap it around so that it creates an X in the front of your first two fingers. Then you'll go ahead and flip your fingers over, and I like to use my pinky to hold this end of the yarn, which is called the working yarn, just to make sure it's in place. This is the tail. I'm just showing you where it is so that you can make sure yours looks the same. And then you will go and pick up your hook, and you are going to put it under the first strand of yarn, which I am demonstrating here, hook onto the second strand of yarn, and then pull that underneath the first strand. Now you're going to twist the yarn around your hook, which you can do so by inserting your hook further down just to make sure the yarn is fully on there, and then just twist it around back into the normal way that you were holding. And it should look like this. Now what you're going to do is you're going to grab onto your yarn with your hand that is holding the hook, like so, and you can then pull the yarn off of your fingers. And then you can see there are two loose strands hanging down. You're going to grab onto those two loose strands and pull, and this will form your knot. Then what you're going to do is with those two strands, the one is the tail and then the other is the working yarn that's still attached to the skein of yarn. You're going to pull the working yarn, and this will tighten your knot around your hook. Congratulations! Now you officially know how to make a slip knot. The next step with crocheting is something called chaining, and I'm going to be putting the abbreviations on the screen for every single thing that we're doing from here on out. And this is just to get you familiar with the abbreviations of the terms that you're learning. This will help you so much later on. And just so you know, this end of the yarn is called the tail, while this part of the yarn is called the working yarn. And when you're crocheting, make sure your loops go onto this part of your hook, right here. Because as you can see, towards the actual hook part is smaller, and that is not the size you need for your loops. You need this bigger part of the hook to use as the reference size for your loops. Now go ahead and grab onto your working yarn with your other hand while holding the tail with the hand holding the hook. This will just help keep the loop in place. Now keep in mind this might be a little tricky for you to hold like this, but trust me, it'll get easier with practice. Now we are going to do something called yarn over. This is where you take your working yarn and wrap it around your hook from the back, like so. Okay, so once your yarn is wrapped around your hook, this is where we are going to chain. Depending on how you're holding your hook and your yarn, you may need to readjust how you're holding things. I certainly do. I switch my slip knot holding hand to my other hand, but basically you're going to take the yarn that you just yarned over and pull that through the loop that is on your hook, like so. And then make sure your loop goes back onto the thicker part of your hook and you just chained one. And I'm going to demonstrate this again, okay? So you're going to yarn over, so wrap around from the back, and then take your hook and from that yarn over, pull that yarn through the loop already on your hook, and that's another chain. So I'm just going to demonstrate from another angle. So from straight on, you wrap your yarn around, and then you take your hook and hook onto that yarn that you wrapped around and pull it through the loop that's already on your hook in order to create a new loop. And then you just do this process over and over and over again for however long you need for whatever project you're making, and this is called chaining. And you can chain however much you want right now because we're just practicing. I'm going to end up chaining 12, and I will show you how to properly count how many chains you have. Now when you're going to count how many chains you have, you'll see that each chain kind of looks like a V. So each V is one chain. And so I will show you closer what that looks like. So this first one, you can kind of see either side of it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then you do not count the loop around your hook. That does not count as a chain. So I only have 9 chains and I want 12. So I'm going to chain 1, 2, 3 more to get to 12. And then I always like to double check my work, so I'm going to count again. So this one right here is 1, then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. And again, we do not count the 1 on the hook. And there you go. Now you know how to make a slip knot and how to chain, and those are the 2 basics you need to start off most projects. Now your chain does not count as your first row, it's simply your foundation. So the next step is to start the first row, which is going to be of half double crochets. So in order to start half double crochets, you are going to pick up your chain, and I have made a total of 12 chains here, and we are actually going to chain 1 more than the amount of half double crochets we want. So since I want 12 and I have 12 chains, I'm actually going to make 13 chains because that's 1 more. And the reason we do this is because we'll actually be skipping that first chain away from the hook when we work into our chain, but before that we are going to yarn over. So after you've yarned over, you are going to look at your chain, and that first one away from the hook, like I said before, you are going to skip, and we are going to work into the second one here. So again, that first one you skip and you work into the second one right here. So go ahead and enter your hook, and once you are into the chain, you should have 1, 2, 3 loops around your hook. Then you are going to yarn over, and you're going to pull that yarn over through the first loop on your hook, only the first loop. Then again, you should have 1, 2, 3 loops around your hook. Now you are going to yarn over again, and then you are going to pull this yarn over through all 3 loops on your hook. So go ahead and pull it through all 3 loops, and you have just made your first half double crochet. So if you have stitch markers, now is the time to grab one because we are going to put one in the very top of that half double crochet. So here is my stitch marker, and you can go ahead and grab your project, and right here you will be able to see the top of your stitch. That is where you are going to put your stitch marker. Now let's make our next half double crochet. To do that, we're going to look for the next chain in the row. So as you can see right here is the next chain for our next stitch. So now we're going to yarn over and enter our hook into that next chain, and then we are going to yarn over again, pull up a loop, yarn over again, and pull that through all 3 loops. And one more time, you are going to yarn over, and then you are going to find the next chain in the row, so right here. So you're going to enter into the one side of the chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over again, and pull through all 3 loops. And as you can see, sometimes it's a struggle. And now I'm just going to finish the first row. And now I'm just finishing my last half double crochet, and at this point I like to count my stitches to make sure I have the right amount before continuing the project. And I do in fact have 12, the amount that I wanted, and this is what your project should look like so far. And so at this point, the next step is going to be to start the second row. So to do that, we are going to take our working yarn, and we are simply going to yarn over and chain 1. And then we are going to turn our work, because we always want to be working from right to left. And now we are going to yarn over, and then we are going to look at our stitches from the top, skip that first one, and go into the second one right here. And you'll be able to see from the side of your project, there's a small hole right there. That is where you want to put your hook. So go ahead and enter your hook, yarn over, and pull that yarn over through this entire V right here. You want to make sure you get that entire stitch. So pull it through and make sure you have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, and pull that through all 3 loops. And you should put a stitch marker on that first stitch, but I clearly forgot. So remember to yarn over and go into the next stitch right here. So enter the stitch and yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over again, and pull through all 3 loops. And at this point you should know how to half double crochet, so you will just half double crochet into every single stitch all the way down your row. And then when you reach the last stitch with the stitch marker on it, you can remove the stitch marker and crochet your last half double crochet into that stitch. And if you wanted to make another row, you would just repeat the process that you did for this row by chaining 1, turning your work, and then working through the stitches from the row before. And that's everything you need to know about how to half double crochet. If you liked this video, I'd appreciate it if you liked and subscribed. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment down below. And as always, thank you for watching.